For the longest time, I was convinced that stretching didn't work, and when it comes to the traditional methods of stretching, I still feel that way. But later I'm going to share with you something new I discovered recently. Flexibility gives an athlete power through range of motion they don't have otherwise. Without flexibility, range of motion is lost and it costs more energy. I have never been very flexible. Even as a young child, I couldn't bend forward and touch my toes. I hated stretching my legs. As soon as I would bend forward, even just a little, my hamstring muscles tensed up like steel rods and felt really uncomfortable all the way down to my feet. They would get much tighter than other muscles in my body that I would stretch. For me, stretching my hamstrings was incredibly unpleasant. I would prefer running several miles to bending forward and trying to touch my toes. I didn't mind stretching other muscles as much, but stretching hamstrings was a horribly uncomfortable experience. But it wasn't just my hamstrings. If I tried to lift my leg straight out to the side away from my body, I would always get a cramp on the outside of my hip, and then I had to put it down. I spent so much time stretching in different periods of my life, but I never made much, if any, progress. I tried stretching, yoga, and other things. The little progress I did make would go away as soon as I stopped. This was something neither I nor anyone who had done any body work on me had ever been able to solve. But there is a way to release these muscles that I've discovered recently that works unlike anything I've tried before. But before I tell you what it is, let me tell you about myself. My name is Dr. Daniel Lopez. I'm an osteopathic physician. I practice a hands-on medicine that harnesses the body's own healing powers to restore health to places where it is not functioning optimally. I got into it because it was the only thing of many things I tried that gave me lasting results for many of the aches and pains I had growing up. And I'll be honest, most things out there aren't very effective in providing long-term relief and in making any real changes. So when I stumbled upon this, I'm guessing it was an ad making a claim that it was possible for just about anyone to be doing the splits in 4 weeks. I was naturally very skeptical. As an osteopathic physician, I'm always looking for different ways of releasing dysfunctional areas in the body, so I try to maintain a level of open-mindedness. I was curious to learn more, so I read on, and it immediately caught my attention that they mentioned that traditional stretching doesn't work for most people. Okay, I thought, I agree, but how is this different? The piece I read that really made me decide to try out this program was when they started talking about using reflexes to improve flexibility. For me, this gave the program more credibility. Why? Because in my line of work, I've learned to use reflexes as a powerful therapeutic tool that makes changes down to the level of the nervous system. I have learned to use reflexes to shut off pain instantly in many cases, and I suspected that my hamstrings and adductors, those are the inner thigh muscles, feeling like steel rods was either because my muscles were inherently short, which I was skeptical about because I could feel their constant tension, or there was something going on where my nervous system was wired to not allow much range of motion in my hips and legs. So, I've mentioned several times that I would share with you the name of this kind of stretching. This kind of stretching is called hyperbolic stretching. So the underlying principle with hyperbolic stretching involves two reflexes. The first is called the myotatic reflex, but I've also heard of it referred to as the stretch reflex. During a stretch, we're taking a joint towards the end range of motion. And after about 5 seconds of a stretch, the muscle contracts to prevent the joint and the muscle from going too far and being damaged. In certain cases, like mine and perhaps yours, if you don't have full flexibility, those muscles are wired by the nervous system to prevent motion, while the joint is still well within its normal range. The second reflex that hyperbolic stretching uses is called the autogenic inhibition reflex. In this reflex, a muscle suddenly relaxes in response to excessive tension. An example of this would be when someone is trying to lift a weight that is too heavy. The longer they try to lift it without success, the weaker they become. If they cannot lift it, the muscle fibers start shutting down reflexively to prevent tearing. Therefore, this stretching is more effective if the muscle being stretched is fatigued beforehand. So, hyperbolic stretching takes a muscle into a stretch until it reflexively tightens and then uses the other reflex to override the protective reflex and increases range of motion. The more this happens, the more the nervous system allows the muscle to relax because it realizes it is safe to progress through that range of motion. In the case of this program, it has one person stretch just 3 muscles: the hamstrings, the adductors, which are the inner thigh muscles, and the hip flexors. This is because the goal is to do the splits, but also because it considers this the most important place to improve flexibility before trying to get flexibility in other parts of the body. It's okay if the explanation does not make full sense, but that is a brief explanation of how this stretching is different for those who want a scientific explanation. This method of stretching was similar to others I have come across, such as muscle energy in the osteopathic world and contract relax in other fields, but it's still different and produced different results where those had failed before. So at that point, I decided to give it a try and evaluate it to see if there was validity to this type of stretching, or if I would end up considering it BS, like the other types of stretching I had tried before. I ended up being surprised by how quickly I noticed things start to change. At first, my flexibility was not outwardly dramatically different, but there was a powerful change that took place very quickly that made me happy about the $27 investment, even if I never managed to do a full split. What did I feel that I was so happy about? The answer is relief. My muscles felt much more relaxed. It was the first time in my life I had felt relaxation in these muscles. When I stretched my hamstrings, they felt less like steel rods. Suddenly, they felt more like the other muscles in my body when I stretched them and felt softer through the stretch. It was a much more pleasant experience. It wasn't all pleasant. My joints had to get used to the new range of motion that they had never experienced before. The best part was the other changes that took place once these muscles released. My pelvis and spine suddenly felt also more relaxed and less tension. I could tell there was changes in my knees, and even my calves felt more relaxed. There was a sensation of better blood flow into my legs and less hypersensitivity within my nerves. All these muscles were less sensitive to touch, and this was only the beginning. Since then, the changes after each time have not been quite as dramatic, but I have quickly been gaining more flexibility. I have plenty more flexibility to go before being able to do the splits, but I have made huge gains. I'm now able to do motions that seemed impossible and were out of my realm of possibility even a few months ago. I use my sit-stand desk to help me with stretching, and I can't believe how much my flexibility has improved. And I'm about 4 weeks into the program, and although I'm not about to drop into doing the splits at this point, I have made more progress than ever, and hopefully we'll be able to do the splits soon. I don't even need to stretch every day, just 4 times a week. I'm looking to continue to improve so I can get to doing the splits. Not because doing the splits is a dream of mine, but because in my line of work, I have come to appreciate how a flexible, supple body affects overall health and quality of life. As an athlete, not having this kind of tension increases range of motion and strength, but I believe when the tension and rigidity is there that it requires more energy to maintain, even when relaxed. Now, I recommend this to many of my patients with low back pain, pelvic pain, and other issues that may seem appropriate to do at home. I always warn my patients that when they go to the sales page that it looks a bit overhyped and scammy, but I have found this program to be legit. I don't promote things that I haven't found valuable. When you click on the link below this video and sign up for the Hyperbolic Stretching $27 program, you get a PDF manual detailing the program. The first section covers in more depth the science behind the stretching program and the benefits of having a stronger, more flexible pelvic floor. The most important section is the section that describes the stretching program. It goes into the stretching and exercises to do before the stretch, even exercises that can be done at home without any equipment. After the exercises, it explains the actual stretching process in depth. This includes when to do the stretches, variations for different levels, and problems one might come up against. Furthermore, there are some bonuses that you have access to with the program. You'll get 3 manuals titled Full Body Flexibility, the 8-Minute Strength and Fat Loss, Hit to Fit, and Mind Power Unleashed. Although similar, there is a specific program geared towards men and one for women. If you're an athlete and are not naturally flexible, you're not going to be able to reach your peak performance. It's harder to be inflexible and it requires more energy. So what if you could have full flexibility and strength? When I was a swimmer, I was envious of those who were flexible. I could see how it was easier for them to move. I would have liked to have had a stretching program that actually worked to help give me a similar advantage. And you can have that with this new type of stretching. I believe that increased flexibility would have significantly improved my athletic performance, and any athlete who struggles with flexibility should consider trying out this program. This does work unlike anything else I've ever tried before. Click on the link below and get started today if you aren't very flexible, have low back pain and tension, or just want to check it out. It's time you experience what it's like to feel relief and relaxation in your back, hips, legs, and more. The relief, resiliency, and power are within your grasp. Try it now. Click on the links below and enjoy the relief.